Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mariner of Spirit. I'm Greg, I'm your host, and it's another great show tonight. I know that I went ahead and I ran that intro twice, and that's because for some ungodly reason I had a brain fart and couldn't figure out why I wasn't coming up on the screen. One of those nights. So tonight we have a special guest, Thomas Patrick Bromley. And before I bring him on, I want to go ahead and mention a few things that I constantly talk about before every show. And I talk about the people I support. And one of them is Plotographs with Tim Miley. And that's a organization where he goes around and does benefits fundraisers for lost pooches and just general care of animal care. And he does a great job at that. And he's more than I love to go ahead and mention him. Next, the second one is PKC Paranormal Kicks Cancer. And that's with Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson. And they're from down in Florida, and they do fundraisers for cancer research throughout the South. And sometimes they come all the way up into Tennessee and other places, all the way over to California. And they do some real great fundraisers at haunted houses and things like that. And all the money they collect is for cancer research. And the third one is the Jessica Petrie Foundation. And that's a resource for expecting mothers and families of pregnant women with mental illnesses. And it's Howard Petrie's daughter, and she's no longer with us, but Howard Petrie is a friend of mine, and I sort of really like to support him and his foundation for everything that it's been doing for them. Okay, and then secondly, it's just the authors, some of the authors I mentioned, and it's Ron Iacovetti, Tony Rathman, Natalie Jones, Patty Negri, Sylvia Schultz, Amelia Carter, Rex Nielsen, Kathy Kressel, David Sloan, Bruce Holliday, Tobias Whalen, Adam Benedict. So those are the authors. And if you get a chance, look them up, get a book, and do some reading on paranormal. These people have done an excellent job, and it's really neat that we have these authors in our community, and we should support them. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Thomas out.
I get full
Here's
battery.
Thomas. Hey, Tom.
How are you?
Okay, how are you? It's great to have you on.
I know.
And,
I really appreciate it, Greg. It's been a little bit, but good to be able to talk to you.
It's been a little bit for everybody this year for
Yeah.
some reason. I don't know what's been going on, but knowing of you, never really meeting you in person.
Yeah.
I understand that there's a lot of things that you're involved with.
Mhm.
And I know that you have you're the owner of the Archangel of the Paranormal.
Yes. Yep.
And
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Go ahead.
and then you're the shaman and the snowman. That's another one. Can you tell me the difference between those two?
The shaman and the showman. So, but that's a events group, and I'm the shaman, and Charles Rosenet is the showman, and we do events: Connecticut Paracon, Salem Paracon Horror Fest, Connecticut Witch Trials Festival. There's we do psychic fairs, and then regular events where we have a dinner. We teach people proper ways on how to investigate and take them to an historic place to do an investigation. So that's kind of the whole of our thing that we do. Archangel the Paranormal has always been my call sign for quite a few years, 40 years of investigating the paranormal. And that's pretty much what I go by, and done probably over 2,000 home investigations. So that's the home investigation side.
So did that materialize way back in the day when you knew those two special people?
Yeah, those two special people. Yeah, it's 13 years old. I met Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I always felt different. And Lorraine helped me figure out that I had abilities and helped me um, get in touch with those. And after college, I went out on my own, and I spent a little while with them. I never investigated with them, but I used to spend time at the house, especially on Halloween when they have the events at the house, and get to see the exorcism type footage and the sounds and all that they didn't show at the college circuit.
Wow, that had to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's good, great memories, great people. Um, Lorraine was like your grandmother, and Ed, once you got to know him, had a big heart. He could come off as a curmudgeon, but he had a big heart, and he'd always do anything for it. That's the way it was. So, and actually, if you don't mind, probably somebody that knows him even better than me. I am currently this weekend. We are doing a docu-series that we're filming here at the Enfield Demon House that people know it by, but we're trying to get it renamed to the 1771 Enfield House. And a good friend of mine and one of the heads of the Warren Legacy Foundation. I'm going to move my screen. So just say,
okay.
I'm going the wrong way.
You want me to give him his own screen?
I don't know. Oh, there he is.
Oh.
Yeah. Hi, Greg.
Oh.
Hey, how are you?
Good, sir. Thanks for allowing me to come on with Tom.
Yeah.
Hey, that's fine. That's perfect. You think we should go? Can we bust it in the threes, maybe?
I don't know.
Would that make it?
Can we do that?
Let me try and see what happens. No, that's not going to do it.
I think we can do it.
So I'll keep her in the big mode. That's cool. Well, you guys can go ahead and touch shoulders. I won't tell anybody.
This bigger? Yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
There we go. Make it bigger.
I don't know if I can get in here a little bit better.
Yeah, that way you guys are both together. So what brings you over to the house you're at right now?
So, Joe's been part of the the family for 16 years. He was here when the problems originally started, it's something that they helped a long time ago. But I think recently, with a lot of events that have been going on, some things have reawakened, and we're here to help the family. We're here to help heal the house, heal the land of the house, and just relook at things with another perspective. And I'm very grateful to have Joe here with us with his knowledge of the house and just years of knowledge. Like the both of us, we both met Ed and Lorraine around the same time. We've been at this for a few decades, and just trying to bring in the best team to help.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Oh, there's.
If I could ask without really throwing anything under the bus.
Yeah, but a lot of people over the years think, oh, there's nothing. There's a lot going on in this house. It's very layered and complicated. It's nothing simple. So nothing's ever simple when it comes to things that go on at a house. There's a lot of moving parts, and that's why we have a big team to take care of each moving part, to look at this and come together. Has I have to say an unprecedented team. I've never worked on a team where there's been 4 shamans, there's been psychic mediums, there's we have a medical psychologist part of it. So every aspect you could think of, and we've thought about this for months. So this has been in the planning for quite a few months now.
That's awesome.
Yep.
How many do you have all in all?
I think a total over the weekend, I think it's about 10. Yep.
And they're all really qualified individuals that have been on a lot of investigations like you.
Yeah, everybody's gone through a thorough investigation, and some people have fallen off the wayside up to this point. The people that were meant to be here to be able to help are actually here. So, and that's a very important thing. The right intention is part of it, which is very important. Without that, we're not going to be able to complete what the goal is for the family, and the family wants that to happen, which is very important too, because without that want and need, it's very hard to complete, this type of investigation for a solution.
Without mentioning the location of the house,
Mm-hmm.
could you describe it as far as being, is it a ranch house, or is it 2-story with a basement, or what?
Yeah, well, we're in the basement right now of the Enfield
Right.
house. Joe and I are down here. Actually, the owner's down here with us, kind of sitting by and listening in on us, which is cool. So it's almost like we're at a point where we're hanging out. It's kind of a little lull right now, just more of a bonding thing, because I think it's important for an investigator to bond with the people of the house and just to know them and what's going on. But it is a 2-family duplex. That was split. It was an old house. It's with the history of the house. It's dated back to 1771. Just as this town was starting to come to fruition, and this house was here, and the town was like kind of almost built around it. So there's a lot of history attached to it. Over the years, with some of that history, there's been murders in this house. There's been suicides in this house. Anything you could think of. There was mob activity associated with this house. So that type of energy, and they're actually, the thing that's most baffling is when this house is in 1771, there was a lull of records where some missing time between when the house was built and then when it was, going on. So that in between time leaves it up to interpretation of what happened during that time that nobody wanted it reported or known about. So that creates more of a mystery of the house. And, the stories keep unwinding to the point where the family that lives here, actually, they have fraternal twin daughters. And over the last few owners, there's been 4 different sets of twins that have lived in this house, which makes it odd with the protective type of spirits that are in this house that protect the young daughters of the family. And it's almost like they could have been the twins from the past, just protecting because of what they went through and don't want them to go through the same thing. So that's what we're kind of picking up on with that. And, the first night we were here, we were in a lull and we were just eating some pizza and just kind of talking. And I said, this is going to be quite a weekend. And then we heard in the other room, let me tell you about it. And it was a female voice. The only thing in the other room were these dolls.
Wow.
The dolls don't have any talking mechanisms in them. And one of the women that's here, the medical person that's not really an investigator, she heard it, decided that she was supposed to stay over in the house, decided she's going to go get a hotel. She didn't want to stay. It freaked her out quite a bit. So she's like, why am I even here? That's the kind of weekend that's how it started out. And last night we had 4 of us doing an investigation. 2 of us are shamans and the other 2 are psychic mediums. And we were filming, and we have really got in contact with some of the spirits of the house. And I feel like we gave them the opportunity, and we felt what their trauma was, why they were still here, gave them the words, and we helped them make a decision that we assumed that they moved along, and they thanked us through devices that we heard them talk to us. Now, the weirdest part is, as we were doing this, the owner's daughter was outside with a boyfriend sitting on the stoop, and she's sensitive, and she saw a shadow figure walk out the front door like it was leaving. Then a couple minutes later, another one walked out the front door like it was leaving. So as we were giving them the words to leave, they're actually walking out the front door and leaving. So It's nuts, that what's been going on. And it's only been 2 days of investigations. And, it's been crazy. And I think we're, with all the history and feeling what's going on, I'll never say we have a full 100% grasp on it, because you never do with the paranormal. Just when you think you have it under control, it's not. But I think we have a good idea in the direction we need to go to bring a little bit more relief. And I think with helping some of the spirits pass along last night, The oldest daughter that's sensitive hasn't really been able to sleep well in her room. And she says last night it's felt the calmest it has in a long time. So that's the important part. That's what we want to hear. We know we're going in the right direction.
Well, that's crazy. You
Mhm.
know, that's really something. So you two together, Joe and you, do you sort of split the responsibilities of the investigation, or how do you go about doing that with 10 people,
I think a lot of it,
especially with mediums? And
yeah, it's we're all equal in this whole thing. There's no
okay,
ego in this, because if there was ego in this whole investigation, we wouldn't be able to do it, because it would bring us so far away from trying to get in touch, in you know what's going on in the house. Because
well,
if
I don't
you're,
mean egos. I just meant
yeah,
the fact that are you separating them and having like three or four downstairs and three or four
yeah,
upstairs, or
yeah. Well, I think with Joe knowing the family for so long, he's here to support us with the information and what he's gotten over the years, and it's an exchange of information. And yeah, we'll go to certain areas. There's certain hot spots of the house and all that, but we really have to go to every area to really figure out what's going on, what the heartbeat of the house is, and how everything
yeah.
interacts. So yeah.
Well, that's pretty neat
Hmm.
to go ahead and do that. So, Joe, you've been doing this for a long time, huh? Between you
Yeah.
and Tom too.
Yeah. As Tom mentioned earlier, I met Ed and Lorraine Warren fresh out of high school. And that
Wow.
was almost 40 years ago, 38 years ago. And, my wife and I, and we were just newly dating at the time, had seen in the local newspaper that the Warrens are going to be lecturing at a local hotel. The Warrens used to rent a room out in a hotel, and then they'd have a ticketed event. And I don't know if it was $10, $15 for a ticket. And so I remember her saying, "Hey, I see the Warrens are going to be, 10 minutes down the highway at the local Holiday Inn. Would you like to go?" I said, "Oh, up at that point, we're just go to the movies every Friday night." So yeah, it'd be different. So as we're walking in, Lorraine was at the table, selling the tickets and greeting everybody. And I remember she looked at me like, she kind of cocked her head to the side. And she looked at me as if, how you look at somebody and say, I know this person. Where do I know them from? What's their name? And she looked at me kind of funny, and she's like, "Honey," she called everybody honey. She was such a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She's like, "Honey, have we met before?" And I said, "No, Lorraine." I said, "I've heard a lot about you guys. I've obviously seen you on television and print media and news radio. However, we didn't have the internet back then. This is at least 10 years before the internet." And she's looking at me now. I didn't know what she was doing at the time, Greg, but she said to me, she goes, "There's a reason why you're here tonight." She said, "Make sure you come and see Ed and I after the show." So I was so excited. Here I am, 18 years old. I'm like, what do they want to talk to me about? So the show ends, and Lorraine is such a sweetheart. She wanted to stay and answer everyone's questions. And Ed is, with Tony, is gathering up all the equipment. "Come on, Lorraine, let's go. I'm hungry." So every time one of the traditions that I continue to this day is after an investigation or a lecture, we would convene at a local diner and discuss the events of the evening, whether it be a lecture, how did you think the lecture went, what should we change, or if it was an investigation, we'd compare notes. So I'm sitting across from Lorraine, and she's holding my hands, and what she was doing was reading my aura. Lorraine had the ability to read auras, which is that supernatural glow that emanates from all of us. But she could read auras, and she's like, "I can tell by your aura that you were meant to do this work." She said, "Would you like to come and work with Ed and I?" They were putting together a small class of students. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, absolutely." So, from there, so I was basically chosen by the Warrens, but I truly feel that it was destined for me to go and meet them that night. And here I am 4 decades later, still in the work. And, aside from doing investigations and trying to help, families like Jay and Elka's family here, I also do a lot of lecturing around the country, and I try to pass on the knowledge that they instilled in me to others. You know, I certainly don't know everything, but you know, after 40 years, I know a little bit. And you know, I try to speak to people that want to learn. You know, the way I learned. Of course, that's everyone has their own style and things like that. But now with the advent of modern technology and the internet and social media and all that, things have changed quite a bit in the past 30 to 40 years. You know, and there's now you Google paranormal and, you know, thousands of pages of teams and groups pop up. And, you know, it's hard for people to find the help they need because a lot of these groups are not as well educated on what to do. Ed used to say to me, he's like, some of these teams, they do have to work. They'll load up the mystery machine and with all their equipment, they'll go to someone's house or place of business. And he said, yeah, they might capture something that may be paranormal evidence, but then what are you prepared to do about it? Because they don't know, you know. So this case here, I started with the family in 2007, and I worked for 3.5 years on this case. And the girls, the twins, were only a year and a half old when I met them. And it's so sweet. They actually call me Uncle Joe because they know me so well. And we dealt with something more sinister, I believe, back then. We had something what I would say was demonic. And you know, it was very evil. And a lot of stuff that happened, you would hear scratching sounds, growling, foul smells, items, you know, paranormal, poltergeist activity where items would go flying off shelves and across the room and things like that. So it finally culminated into we had to bring Bishop Robert McKenna in here to perform an exorcism on the home. And we believe that finally got rid of that evil presence that was here, although we could never be sure. But the family has said, you know, in subsequent years following that exorcism, things seemed to tone down a bit. But as the girls grew and came into their teenage years, you know, puberty, the activity started up again. It's I don't think it's at the level of it was when I dealt with it 16 years ago, but it's come to the point where it's so unnerving for the family that we needed to do something, you know. And I'm just a lone soldier. I can't do everything. I'm so happy to have Tom's help and Stacia and Greg and Scott and Tony to come out. And, you know, we're doing like a 5-day stay at the house here. We're trying to figure out, all right, what are we dealing with? Is it something earthbound? Is it something, you know, the more sinister? But you need to identify what you're dealing with before you can make a plan of action to get rid of it, you know. So that's what we're here doing. I didn't know I'd be called back to the house. Jay reached out to me about, I don't know, 8 months ago and said, Joe, you know, there's activities increased. Would like to know if you would help us. I said, absolutely. You know, so you know, this house, I would put that up there, you know, with Amityville. You know, this is the real deal. I know there's a lot of people out there say the house is a fraud and the people are making this up. And look, Tom and I have been doing this 4 decades, and we both stake our reputations on this, that this house is the real deal. You know,
yeah, there's no reason, you know, that's stuff where those people do that kind of thing has no place in the paranormal community to begin with.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, we just
literally
ignore it and
anybody.
move forward. That's all.
Yeah.
You know, we don't engage in you know, arguments on social media. Nobody wins those arguments. You know,
Right.
we just don't engage them, and you know, you're going to have people that are haters. And you know, there's another name I'd like to mention, John Zaffis, who is Ed Warren and Lorraine Warren's nephew. He's a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for 40 years. And John told me, Joe, if you need to use my name, John was in this house about 10 years ago, Jay, I guess. And he was doing an investigation with his team, and he had some personal experiences as well. So, you know, if John were here, he'd tell you the same thing, that this house is the real deal. And all we want to do is help this family find peace. We're not out for glory. We're not out for attention. We're just out to find the family some peace. You know, we don't charge for our services. We're all here on our own time, on our own dime. Thank God we have very supportive spouses that love us. And, you know, they may not like the fact that we're gone for 5 days, but they certainly understand why, you know, and support us. which is
I still haven't got to that point in my house.
Yeah.
Okay, so the most I've ever done is like 3 or 4 days, but it's really interesting, and when you guys, I can see, there's a real connection between both of you too, as far as how you
We're
think.
twin powers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
obviously.
the thing is my wife and Joe's wife worked together years ago, and my wife knew his wife before they even started dating, and there's that connection with that.
I don't think that's a coincidence either.
No, it isn't. Being the shamanistic way is people come into your life for a reason. You're meant to meet somebody at the certain time, and there is that past, like, kind of how it leads, that journey leads to each other to get work done, especially in this field. There's no such thing as a coincidence. There's a lesson there. There's people you're meant to meet, putting experience together to help a family like, the Apples. And, I know what he was talking about, a lot of the people out there and what they say. I'm going to put it this way, the Apples are the nicest people. They've invited people in to investigate. And unfortunately, some of it was for the wrong intention. And I think that created some of what's going on now. We call it familiar demon, where people put the wrong intention in and things get attached to them and they don't understand it. Their psyche changes and they attack. It's what Joe dealt with years ago, the evil that was in here. Actually, hey, I got friends coming in too that are going to help me out also. That happens in the human world too. You get one person that says something is this, and they all jump on the bandwagon and they attack people. That's part of the whole investigation right now. That's what's going on. That type of energy that was brought into the houses. Now we have to remove that. It becomes almost like a created egregore in this house. And
that's what I was
eliminate because of that wrong intention. So.
Yeah, I was going to say an egregore because there is a gentleman that I know, and some of the people in my group that are in Connecticut, even like Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson from Bigfoot and the Bunny, and they had a Dr. Michael Lynch that used to come on their show. And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see him, but he was talking about they were at a Paracon, and they were all together, and a bunch of these people got together and said, well, what if we went ahead and all got together and just created an egregore?
Yeah.
And they did. And then at the end, they forgot to go ahead and take care of it.
Yeah.
And, when they left the hotel, about 3 of them decided about 2 days later to come back and see if they couldn't go ahead and put it back where it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Dispense it entirely. And I found that really interesting because I had never done anything like that. But I know how our minds work. And then when we go on an investigation, even before we go through the door, they know what's going on. So I mean, in that respect, I work with, I don't know if you know Scotty Rourke.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's a psychic medium from up in Madison, Wisconsin. Yep. And he's like my mentor. So I've been working with him for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to go that route because I do a lot of ITC. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of that. And I have a show on Wednesday nights that I even do it on. It's One Spirit Connect. And I find that really, really interesting because on a long distance, you would think there wouldn't be any connection. But I can connect them, like from here to Texas.
Yeah.
And from here to Connecticut and things like that. And it's really interesting. Do you guys ever run into that, or do you use a lot of spirit boxes or not?
being sensitive and all that, I do use some equipment, but the only purpose is to validate how I'm feeling. I use it to validate what I'm feeling if something goes off. We're in Connecticut. I mean, North Granby, that was the home of Gary Galka, who invented the millimeter,
Right.
because his daughter Melissa passed away, and that's why all the
Right.
I'll say the what was it, the 87, I think, 04, the year she was born, the year she died, and that's on all the millimeters that are ever made all throughout the world. These people use these. Because of the death of his daughter, we're able to use that in theory to be able to communicate, to help other families come to terms with somebody that might have passed or what's in their home. So that's pretty powerful. So a lot of this instrumentation, or your spirit boxes, or your broken radio, your Frank's box, all these things over the years to communicate, those are important things, and it's hard to discern sometimes, where it went to the point where you had the guys up in Colorado put together the Estes method using a spirit box to try and take away the, that type of thing where you could ask a question and somebody listening hears and actually uses the meditation to pick it up. There's so many different ways that we keep coming up with these ideas. We keep trying to think outside the box, but really what it comes down to is sometimes it's just you and how you're feeling and what you're picking up. And you go back to the old school, us older guys, it's just, we rarely use instrumentation. It is feel, it is the psyche of the family that lives there, what they're going through, and just reading the room and all that is some of the biggest things. Being a former law enforcement officer, it's reading the room sometimes is half the battle, and knowing the history. You can't go into an investigation without knowing the history, and we're lucky that the easiest part of this case is Jay, who owns the home, seriously dove down the rabbit hole to get the history of this house and everything going on. I mean, there's like tons of it, boxes and boxes. I've never seen anything like it. You don't even have to go, to the historical society or anything. Jay's his own personal historical society.
Done all the work,
yeah. So he's wanted to know what's going on in here, and he's dedicated to help his own family, that they don't have to go through that. But he knows he couldn't do it alone either. That's why he called like Joe Frankie, and that's why we're all here now too. It's a love for this family, we're there for them. They're family to us, and for anybody to say otherwise, it's they're not in spirit. They're not going to help us. That's the ego getting in the way, and that's the bad part about our industry. People got to realize it's not a competition. We need to help each other, give each other ideas on how to come to a solution. If we don't do that, we're going to implode, and this is just going to be worthless, and we can't have that happen.
A lot of people have come here for the wrong reasons, the wrong intentions. Most of them have come in because they've got a YouTube channel and they're looking for content, and they want to capture something and throw it up on their channel for likes or followers, and then that turns into monetization, and that's not what we're all about. I mean, we're all here on our own dime, on our own time, and we're happy to do it because it's a vocation. It's not an occupation. I'm glad to be here, and I couldn't be more proud of the team of people that have been assembled, because I couldn't think of a better team. This is like the dream team, so to speak. And even we're stumped sometimes. I mean, we don't know everything, but if you're methodical about it and you're trying to figure out, okay, what are we dealing with? Is this something we need to fear, or is this something spirit here we need to help cross over? Are they here for protection? Are they here for malicious purposes? Well, once you figure that out, then you can figure out a plan of attack, so to speak, and bring some peace to the family. I mean, just what the folks did last evening, in one of the daughter's bedrooms where she had a lot of activity. She slept like a baby last night, she said, and it was very comfortable. She didn't have any sightings of any what we call the Hat Man, dark figures that she would see. She didn't hear any scratching noises, so we're hoping that's part of a trend, and it won't happen anymore. Because it's causing these people mental anguish and lost sleep, and that takes its toll on your health, your mental health, and your physical health eventually.
Yeah, and it is. We get into a point where we're beat up over and over and over again. When you get beat up over and over again, sometimes you get to the point you react. and all that. And that's part of the house. That's part of the lure of the house sometimes. And that happens to everybody, the people in the house, the people outside the house. That's like the biggest battle right now. And I think when we get this docuseries out and people see the reality of it and not something that's been edited out or Hollywooded up, just the realness of it, the rawness of it, they're going to see what it's all about. But again, we do have open spots still for tomorrow night. If you go on our friend Scott Allen, ALLAN, so it's mediumscottallen.com. You could still get tickets and join us. You might be part of the docuseries because tomorrow night we still have some tickets left. Check it out, and you could join Joe, myself, and the rest of the team, and be able to join us and take a look around and hear about what we got going on, and just become part of it and learn how real things are in this house and what's going on.
Do you think that the Enfield house is equivalent to the Conjuring house?
Well, in theory, it is a family that's in, and there's a lot of history behind it, and there's death and all that. A lot of these houses, Amityville, it ranks up there. I mean, this house, they can make a movie out of it. They can make a book out of it. There's so much moving parts. There's so much. I mean, the book would probably be, if I could get my hand in there, right about that thick. There's so much history to this house. Jay could tell you the history of the house and could probably go on for 3-4 hours. Just the history of everything that's happened since this house was built, things that have gone on here, mob history with this house, all the twins that have been in this house, the correlation, the murders, the suicides, you name it, it's happened here. So,
what's your take on the twins?
That was the big thing. Talking, we were up really late last night. I think we were up till about 4 a.m. With a lot more history and just more of a getting to know and opening more up with the family and learning more and more things that we didn't talk about before. But again, when I tell people, when you want to get a history, that's the thing. You got to spend time in, find that love for the family and have those conversations, have some of the hard conversations too. And then you find out those things and it helps put the clues together. I just learned that this morning that there was 4 sets of twins in this house and the twins here. And that's helped us with our last night's investigation too. Knowing that and knowing that some of the twins, one of the twins from years ago hung themselves. And that's what we felt was the spirit up in the other twins' room, Courtney, up in her room. And we think we helped him move a little bit, or at least understand that he can't keep scaring her and all that. I know he's being protective, but sometimes a little overprotective, which we sometimes don't understand in the spiritual world of overprotectiveness.
And I have twins, so that might have been. I have twin daughters myself, so
You do.
I do.
It's almost like he was meant to be part of this investigation from the get-go.
There goes synchronicities here.
Yeah.
In contrast to the Conjuring house, unfortunately, I believe a lot of the stories you hear and a lot that's written is manufactured. I know that the Bathsheba story, she gets a bad rap. All the experience I have in research, and I've been in a Conjuring house many times, but that was prior to the new owners. This is going 20, 25 years ago. And there was no activity at that time reported by the Sutcliffes that lived there. But, things like Bathsheba, I believe she was a scapegoat. From what I understand, she was a pillar of the community. She used to care for other people's children. And unfortunately, because of those stories that were manufactured somewhere down the line, her grave has been desecrated multiple times. And that's a shame. But people, they like to go to the stories because it's content. It's a scary story. It's, and that's not why you should be in this work. You have all these paranormal teams, and I don't want to be negative about it, but I just get frustrated because you're trying to educate people, and it's almost like we're flowers in a sea of weeds, and you have to find us. You have to find those people that have decades of experience and say, well, wait a minute, folks, this is not what's happening. This is actually what's happening. But then you have the haters out there that are poo-pooing that because it blows their story out of the water.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. But the Conjuring House, in my humble opinion, if there's anything there with any malicious intent, it was brought in by the people that come into the house.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, my humble opinion. But that I found that house to be very peaceful and loving when I was there. But again, it's been well over 20 years since I've been there.
Well, the thing is if you ever met the Perrin family, the Perrins are great people.
Awesome people.
They're awesome people. They went through something, but I think because of them living there and what they went through, I think they were able to cease a lot of it just for their love for each other. And that's what's important when you are going through a haunting like that, finding the love with your family. Love conquers fear every time. And I think fear is what some of these entities feed into, of course. But that's kind of what this weekend's all about. We've been sitting, talking and laughing. And last night we were laughing so hard. I mean, I saw, when you're sensitive, you pick up on aura and stuff like that. But I've had shooting auras coming in from the side. I could see blue lights coming in. Jay was seeing them last night. Stacia was seeing them last night. We're open to it. And us laughing and bringing into that goodness and all that is changing the atmosphere of this house as we speak. Us just talking to you right now, telling you about the house in a positive way, you could feel a difference in the atmosphere. That's what it's about. And people forget that. They come in, and again, like I said, you come into a place with ego, you're not going to get in touch with spirit. And again, if you don't know the history, you can't go in a house not knowing the history. You got to know what you're dealing with. You can't go in the house and say, what's your name? What color shirt are you wearing? That doesn't do anything. You need to know, hey, George, are you here? George, I heard that, something happened to you a few years ago. Have an idea. Do the work. Don't knock the people that are doing the work, because, man, I've done so much studying and hours of talking with Jay and putting this together to make sure that this gets done properly for them. It's more for them than anything. It's not for us being on this podcast right now and talking about it. In the end, it ultimately begins with, can we bring this family peace that they've been looking for years? And that's why we have people like Joe Frankie, with Stacia Wills, with Scott Allen, with Gregory Nichols, and all these people that have been at it for a long time, that have that experience to bring.
We complement one another.
We bounce ideas off each other. We're all equal here, and we're bouncing ideas off each other. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? It's a different type of team. There's no, I don't want to say leader, but basically the leaders of the house are the family. We look at them and we ask their permission. What do you think of this? Do you think this will help? What do you think of that? You
guys are all running the same frequencies.
Yeah.
Your vibration levels are the same. That's what brings the calmness to the situation.
Yeah.
For my meager beginning part, because I don't hold a snowball's chance when it comes to you guys, but it's interesting to know and to ask the kind of questions that I'm asking, especially this next one, which happens to be, do you do any prayer preparation before you go in every day?
That's a daily. It's a minute-to-minute thing.
Oh, is it?
I'm always asking for protection on a daily basis. Even when I'm not here, I'm at work, I ask for it.
Okay.
The thing is, you have to have faith, and you have to have a minute-to-minute relationship with whatever you believe, your higher power.
Right.
Every religion or every esoteric diversity all has a higher power. Of course, Joe and I, we believe there's a God, and that's what we look at. And I'll never knock anybody for what their beliefs are, but you have a belief and you're able to focus in on a higher power and all that, that brings that ability to get in touch with spirit and have something work through you. It's not you. It's that higher power working through you to help and all that. You're asking of somebody to help you and come through you and help.
One thing I learned from Ed, I remember from his teachings, Greg, I always say to my audience when I'm talking, I said, faith and fear cannot coexist. If you have faith, true, honest faith, then you have nothing to fear. And I try to explain that to people. My preparation before I go into a case like this, and even if I'm just going over someone's house to interview them, I don't know what I'm getting myself into. We got to make sure you're in a state of absolution, what we call a state of grace. I'm Roman Catholic, born and raised, and I was trained by the Warrens, who were very Roman Catholic. And so I would go confess my sins and be absolved, because if you're dealing with something dark and sinister and something, God forbid, demonic, it knows your sins. Okay.
Yes.
And it can use those against you. But if you are absolved of those sins, it's got no ammunition against you. And they can't just attach to you either. They need to be conjured. There needs to be a doorway that's open. They needed to be invited in, whether that's consciously or unconsciously. And, one of the most common forms of divination these days are things like Ouija boards. Ouija boards, crystal balls, divining rods, things like that. Any instrument that you're using to try to foretell the future or find out information about unknown events that haven't happened yet, I believe that we're not meant to know our future. Only God knows our future. And we shouldn't be meddling with that, because that kind of translates into putting those things above God, which is against the first commandment. Mm-hmm. So, it's very important that you be in a state of grace. So that's one of the ways I prepare. I pray every day. I talk to Ed and Lorraine. I talk to my parents. Give me guidance. Give me strength. And we all have our faith and pray and protect ourselves in our own way. So there's no cookie cutter approach. It's all based on faith. Yep.
Well, that's awesome. That's what I think. A lot of the people that are in the room, not that they really need that, but it's another tool.
Yeah.
It's another way of looking at what you guys do. Now, when I mention the word crossing over, do you guys do that too?
Well, I'm going to tell you something, and I've talked about this before. We were just talking to some other people earlier. I'm an instrument. I'm an instrument to the living. I'm an instrument to people that have passed in spirit. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to talk to them the same way we're talking right now. Just because their shell's gone, they're still there. They still have trauma. Sometimes they don't know why they're still here.
And they still have free will.
They still have free will. And we have to remind them of that and find out what the trauma was that's keeping them here. Listen to their story. In spirit, some of us are able, as psychic mediums, to be able to pick up that, or that sensitivity, or using an instrumentation like we used last night to verify our conversation with spirit, knowing that we said to one of them, go towards the light. They didn't know what the light was. Mm-hmm. And then we had the presence of mind as a group thinking outside the boxes. What did you love most in life? And they said daisies. And we said, go and smell the daisies. Mm-hmm. And that's how they found how to leave and make that decision to move on. It isn't always about the light. It's about what they loved most, their family. Go towards your family's voice. It's not always about telling people to go to the light. It's giving them the words that whatever consciousness is left of them is to make that decision to go towards love. And we all know that God is the greatest love of all, but what's going to remind you of God? God made daisies. God made this. Mm-hmm. That's how you get there. Your family was born out of what God provided. You go towards that and all that, but it's them making the decision. I'm just a conduit. Mm-hmm. Joe's just a conduit to say, hey, these are the words. It's the same thing as, like I told earlier, to the living. If you were a smoker and I said to you, hey, you need to quit smoking, but until you make the decision to hear my words and say, yeah, maybe I should quit smoking, that's when it happens. Mm-hmm. It's not because I told you. It's because it made sense. It made something go off in your own brain to make your free will decision. It's time to go. So, and that's what it is.
And spirits may remain earthbound for a multitude of reasons. They may be attached to someone. They may not be prepared. Sometimes they're scared. They're afraid. I didn't live a very good life. I'm afraid I'm going to go downstairs. And I tell them, I said, look, just ask God for forgiveness. He loves you and he'll forgive you if you truly repent. Yeah. and he'll pull you over, or you have you pray for a loved one to come and pull them over. But there's many reasons why they remain earthbound. Maybe they, like Tom said, they have free will. So maybe they just choose to stay here. I don't know why they'd want to not go on into the light and go into God's grace, but that is their decision.
Well, sometimes, some of them pass, they don't know they passed. Yes.
Confusion.
But some of them are waiting.
Yeah.
A husband and a wife, the husband passes, doesn't want to leave yet, doesn't want to leave his wife behind, and stays and waits for her time. So you never know the reason. There's been a case where was communicating with a spirit, and they just loved watching the birds still on their back porch. They didn't want to leave that. They had the love for watching the birds, even though they were gone. They're in spirit. They get to see the birds. That was beautiful to them. That's their heaven. You never know why. And even people, when they pass, even if they go to another plane, there is still the ability to come back and forth, because they still have free will. Even though they go back and forth, they could be to this other plane, but they could still be there to watch over their friends. They could become a spirit guide for you. My mother, who passed away back in 2012, who refocused me in this work, is one of my spirit guides. I feel her all the time around me, and I know she's still there. She has passed along, but she still has the ability to come and be there for me, to help work through me and work through her and work through me to be able to help people, because she always helped people in life too. And I felt more of that pull after her passing to be able to do more of this work. Even though I've been involved in it over the years, I came out of the woodwork back in 2012 because of what I was seeing, more of the social media stuff that started blowing up and all that. And like Joe and I, we want to educate people. We've been doing this for years, but we want people to learn a different way. I'm not saying one way is righter than the other, but I want people to think. And anytime I give a talk, I always say, before I start the conversation, what I'm about to tell you don't have to believe, but this is what I experienced.
Keep it in mind.
Yeah, and you make your decision after the talk of what I'm going to tell you and how that's going to affect you. If I could help somebody realize that, hey, this has touched my life and this has made my life better, then you still did the work. Or I go to a house like we are right now, and if we help them be able to sleep better than they have, guess what? That's what it's all about.
Our mission.
Yeah, it's not about what you put on the internet. It's not about how many likes you got on YouTube. It's about helping people and helping spirit. If you go into an investigation and you're not there to help the family or help the spirit, what are you doing?
You're just there to help yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. So, and that's ego.
When you stop and think about it, we only have one question here, and I posted it up here. And it says, "Are you concerned you will bring an entity home with you?"
Never happened in 40 years. I'll knock on wood. But because Joe and I have known and we learned from some of the best, when you go into an investigation with the right intent and with the goodness and knowing you have faith and you don't have that fear,
you set boundaries.
And those boundaries stay, and the thing is when things do follow, there's unhealed trauma. Some of these people that get involved in the paranormal have trauma to the point where they haven't healed from it, and they leave themselves open, and they don't understand that. And it's like, I always tell people, when you get involved in this work, you have to have that faith. You have to keep those boundaries and all that. This isn't something for people to play around with. It could get serious at times. Like this house we are at right now was as serious as a heart attack, and it's and we're trying to keep it from getting as bad as it was years ago.
And I think a big thing that has kept it at bay is the family's faith. They are very faithful people. They believe in God, and they pray every day. The girls are wonderful young ladies. The parents are very loving parents. They've been very, very gracious hosts to us, where we run around under their feet for the past couple of days, and they fed us, and they've just really taking good care of us and opened their arms into us. I feel like I'm family. They say, "Joe, you're family," but it's not what they tell me. It's how I feel. I feel like I belong here, and I am here with my colleagues and friends to protect them. And like I said, faith and fear can't coexist. I have no fear anymore. I'm just too old and too tired.
Me too.
That I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
but the people that don't really know what they're doing, I was fortunate, and Tom was fortunate. We had great mentors. They're long gone now. Matter of fact, today is the 18th anniversary of the passing of Ed Warren.
Wow.
So, I don't forget dates like those. I love those people like they were my own grandparents. And one funny thing is the Warrens are the same age then as I am now.
When we first met them,
Yep.
We're the same age as the Warrens were when both of us met.
I'm older than you, though.
By 3 years.
I'm the old guy.
3 years.
Yeah, but you look 10 years younger.
Yeah, but I was 3 years younger when you met him. So,
Yeah, well,
That is,
my
85,
life,
86.
I really, truly believe this. I'm a better person today for having known them.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I think if it wasn't for Lorraine recognizing my abilities, I think I probably would have gotten a lot of trouble because I didn't know what an empath was. I didn't know why I felt angry all of a sudden. I didn't know what that was. You're a young kid. Nobody talked about that stuff back in the day. You would think you were nuts. They'd put you away for talking about that stuff. I kept it to myself.
oh, yeah.
There's a lot of people that I knew in high school didn't know I did this work until recently. I didn't want anybody to know I'm chasing ghosts or things like that, or there's demonic stuff going. They would think you're whacked. Especially growing up in a community that was very Catholic based. I grew up in Southington. That's where one of the Warrens' biggest cases were on Meriden Avenue. At the Meriden Avenue house. Yep. I know they call it The Haunting in Connecticut. That's the movie title. But it's still, to us, it's the funeral home that was on Meriden Avenue. So, and even the Conjuring house, that's still, to me, the farmhouse. That's just the name of a movie. It's still the farmhouse in Rhode Island. A lot of people, when they call it that, Joe and I will look at each other. That's not what we ever called it.
Yeah, Harrisburg House.
Yeah.
It's in Harrisburg, Rhode Island. But the Conjuring films are very loosely based on real cases, very loosely based. And I know the true stories of what happened there. I was a young child then. I wasn't involved directly, but my mentors shared their experiences with me firsthand, and they had no reason to lie to me. Yeah. So I know the true stories. And the Southington case that Tom mentioned, I had just joined the Warrens when that case came about. And I remember Ed saying to me, he's like, "Hey, kid," he called me kid. He's like, "Hey, kid, I got a case right up near where you live, but you're not ready for it yet." And he was right. I was maybe with him for a couple of months at that point. But my good friends, their grandson, Chris McKinnell, and John Zaffis, their nephew, were the lead investigators on that case. And I actually interviewed both of them. So when I talk about it, I can speak intelligently and get the facts right. They lived with the family for 9.5 weeks. They lived that nightmare with them. So
it's kind of like what we're doing right now. We're living a week, which is unprecedented. I don't think it's ever happened with this family.
I might stay longer.
Yeah.
I know you guys are,
if we keep them up till 4 in the morning again.
Jay's next to me.
I know you guys are on the time schedule, but if this is fine with you, we could go ahead and close now. I would love to have you back down the road, please. And if you get a hold of, you mentioned to John Zaffis, and you mentioned my name to him, because I've been trying to get him on for about 3 years now on this show.
I'll make sure he gets the message, Greg. Yeah. He's a good friend.
And he'll probably throw rocks at me.
No, he won't. He'll do it for
me.
But
I want to thank you both for being on. Tom, Joe, it's been really
hijack.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, that's what makes it really neat, is the spontaneity of it, and that's important too, because you guys are two instruments of the paranormal. And that's you don't carry big guns anymore. No, you just carry your faith.
Exactly right. So it's years and years of this and all that. You get to a point and nothing surprises me anymore. And I know Joe's the same way. We've seen a lot, and a lot of it, Joe and I still don't talk about. We don't want to give it power anymore. That's the important thing. When people say demon, 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 we don't give it power anymore. But we'll tell you, over 40 years of this, we've seen some pretty messed up stuff. And I think for most of the people that are watching and all that, it's something that we keep from people to keep them protected. You know, there's some things you should never hear about ever again.
When I lecture on cases, it's pure educational purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it, just to tell stories. I just say, look, this is what happened here, and this is what we did. This is how we approached it. And the people that want to do the work, I mean, we're going to have to pass the torch at some point. I'm not getting any younger.
Mm-hmm.
So, for all those up and coming investigators, I welcome you if you're in it for the right reasons, though. But
well, it is.
I don't have an outro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shut down. And if you got a few minutes just to close it out after we shut down. Okay. Thank you very much. And I'm going to just mention everybody's name in here now. And there's Kimmy Corpse, Nancy Noonan Kelly, Catherine LeBlanc, Barbara Woodbury Spear, Amber K, Turtle. Turtle's been in here quite a bit.
Turtle.
Kathleen LeBach and Turtle, and Barbara Spear. So thank you very much, everybody, for being in the comments section. It's been a great night tonight, and I will be seeing you next week on Wednesday on One Spirit Connect, and then Friday. So thank you very much, and thank you, Tom, and thank you, Joe, for going ahead and making this a real interesting and informative night.
Nice.
I will talk to you in a bit. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.